Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Homeschool Live. My name is Christine, and joining me again is Pat Murray from CTC Math. Thank you so much for joining us again, Pat.
Glad I could be here, Christine. It's nice and early in the morning for me, but
Yes, I'm so appreciative of you being here so early in the morning. He's coming to us from live from Australia, so we appreciate that. And today we've got a hot topic. We're talking about artificial intelligence or AI. And this has been a topic that has been trending for quite some time with all of this advancement in that field. And so we wanted to talk about, you know, AI in the educational field. And so tell us, Pat, what your thoughts are on using AI for educational purposes.
okay, I'll jump in. Look, I've been a big fan, if you like, of AI for many years, probably for a couple of decades now. So we've used AI in parts and for more than 20 years now. So I guess I guess one of the difficulties, firstly, is to get a head around what is AI. So, for
Yes.
those who are unfamiliar, it's artificial intelligence, but basically a whole bunch of machine learning that has come together. And I guess it's really come to the fore in the last 12 months or 18 months or so, because it's so rapidly been able to,
Yeah.
if you like, learn everything that's on the internet. I guess it's probably an easy way to think about. So anything that's essentially been published on the internet, it has just essentially learned most of it. Okay, and
Yeah.
it's smart enough, or it's been programmed enough to actually intelligently put that together and make sense for, I guess, ordinary people to ask questions, I guess, in the most basic sense, and get a what can be a reasonable answer.
Yes.
Um, so there's some great advantages of it happening. Now, are there any dangers? Well, okay, there's plenty of dangers in it. So I guess one of the big things that I don't think it will replace, is certainly not for a long time. I use the term, we've got AI, but more importantly for most kids and their parents in learning and teaching, is the ETI. So the ETI is the experienced teacher intelligence. Okay, so it really needs to have a blend of that with
Yes.
AI, if you like, working in the background. I think for certainly the best results currently. Um, I mean, it is moving fairly rapidly, but I think it's something that as parents you'll need, you really want to be on top of, or be very aware of. Um, and I guess one of the most common things that people are aware of is ChatGPT as
Yeah.
an initial entry, I guess, into AI. But I'd advise everyone on the call, or people listening, to, if you haven't started with ChatGPT, at least start with that, just so you get an idea what is happening, and some of the things that it can do. So that's a
Mhm.
bit of an overview.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me too, I've been playing around with ChatGPT just because they say, it's coming. It's going to be infecting all of what we do in the years to come, and so we have to be educated on it and what it all does for us. So, and it's just been interesting. It's been eye opening to see what you mentioned. That's just the information that it can pull so quickly for you. I mean, it can do research for you like that, and which is great when you have like this research project. And but they I noticed at the very bottom, it has this disclaimer that says ChatGPT can make mistakes. You need to verify, your information,
Gonna
and
verify
so
you. Well, I'll jump in there, because I'll give you a funny, or an interesting story, at least. Anyway, I mean, Christine, that our curriculum is used not just in the US and Australia, but all around the world. And we're always asked to develop new content for new regions and so on. And
yeah.
recently, we've been working on a fairly extensive project with our friends in India. And
Okay.
because we're doing some work, if I'm teaching a course in India, or now most math is the same all around the world, but there are little bits of stuff that is either new that we haven't necessarily taught before, just because it's part of a curriculum that we've never delivered. So sometimes, and that, by the way, that actually gives us a pretty good advantage, because we actually get to see all the different methods and way things are taught. And I've got a bit of a steel trap to work out what's the best method. So I'm able to garnish all these over decades and bring them all together to deliver. But the Indian one, there was a lesson there that it was on matrices, and there was a particular lesson which I was working on some new content, had heaps and heaps of calculations that I just wanted to check. So I created a few examples, and I was happy with my solution. So I just wanted to throw it in ChatGPT just to check it. And it came through fine. And then I did another one, and ChatGPT said I made a mistake, and I thought, oh, okay, because it was a lot of calculation. So I thought, okay, it's fair enough. I may have made a mistake. Anyway, I spent the next 30, 40 minutes going over my calculations line by line, checking back. Well, I realized that my one was actually correct, and ChatGPT had made the error, right? So
Yeah.
I was thinking, wow, and that's from, a fairly experienced teacher from me, not picking that up earlier. So I've wasted 30, 40 minutes thinking that it had the right answer when it didn't. So I just thought, as a student, if a student's, checking their work or trying to find an answer, they could get led right astray, and they could spend a lot of time, and they probably wouldn't be questioning it as much as me. No way.
Exactly.
A student would be more like, okay, well, it's right. I'll be wrong. So let's work it out, and they'd give up in frustration. And then, so that's one massive thing to be aware of. That as you said, at that disclaimer at the bottom, it could make mistakes. It can make mistakes, and I think one of the big things right now, it is fairly good, but still inconsistent. So you could ask, and we've run through plenty of tests, and we still are. Ask it something, and it'll give a perfect answer. And then you could ask something quite similar, like almost an identical question, and it gets it all wrong. So
Yes.
it's a tricky one, so I would certainly not be relying on it as
For sure.
that it knows it for sure. That's right.
Yeah, that's a great example. And yeah, but it's here, and it's a good reminder that we really do still need the eyes of a human
Yes,
to check
yes.
it. And I do like the fact that they do explain their answers, though, because we've put in some math questions only because I didn't know the answer, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had to put it in. But it showed, and so we had to sit down, my son and I, and okay, so this is the first step, and I was checking as we went through, because I'm not going to just rely on the answer. And I needed him to see,
Yeah.
okay, remember, you have to show your work. This is why we show our work, because math is all about steps. So you mess up one step, you mess up the whole thing,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
unfortunately. So especially as we get up into the older grades, it's more and more steps and more complicated. So it's so important to just don't do away with the standard textbooks and lessons that you have in front of you, because those are going to be your foundation to start with.
Yeah, I think
um,
what you said, Kristen, was very important, and that you being the mum there was the intermediate step,
yeah,
the intermediary, where you're helping, your son. You're not letting your son just look at that and see, because
exactly.
that's it. It's not up to that stage yet, and I don't think, and really, I don't know whether it'll ever even get there. And
Mhm.
the reason I say that is because the nuances of a person, understanding their child, or understanding someone that they're teaching, and how they whether they either get it or they don't get it, or whether they're a bit puzzled or something.
Exactly.
And then, but you can go in and sort of, you can actually get a little bit of help yourself, which is great, and then
Yeah.
you'll know how to use that help that you've got to explain it, either in maybe a different way or a better way. So I see that as being potentially the biggest upswing, more so for the teacher. I think it's going to be a great tool to make someone much more an effective teacher. or a
Yes.
much better teacher much faster. So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing I can see
Mhm.
in terms of the student becoming a lot better, a lot quicker. Not so sure about that. I can
Mhm.
certainly see that the student being able to get more practice in, or
Yeah.
the questions adaptively changing to their ability as they go, and that's
Mhm.
one thing we're working a lot on. And even though we've been working on it for probably 12 months now, still getting mixed results depending on the
Yeah.
things. So that's an interesting one. So I see that has the great potential of that, the adaptive learning in the fact that's going to help us and help everybody using not only our program but other programs with that. But in terms of getting rid of the teacher out, I can't see that happening, because that
No.
that human element will just always need to be there.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we believe in at the old schoolhouse, and over at schoolhouseteachers.com. We do believe in the parent child relationship, like just fostering that. We don't ever want to replace, that bond, when it comes to homeschooling in particular. That that's an important aspect of why we keep our kids at home and
Yeah,
teach
that's for
them.
sure. Well,
So
that's irreplaceable. So I think, that's sort of a non-negotiable, that one. So
yeah, of course. Of course. Um, and so I think you hinted at this a little bit, that, CTC Math is using some of this technology. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Does
yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, we've been using our own sort of AI, let alone the stuff that's been released more recently, with a lot of our adaptive. Again, it's behind the scenes, which is great, so no one gets to sort of see it, but you get the benefits of. Like when we have our interactive questions after a lesson, and those questions, they kick off easier, and they get harder depending on how the students
Mhm.
responding, how well they're going. So that adaptive, those algorithms behind the scenes are a lot. They're always pretty powerful, but they become even more powerful the way we've been able to integrate it. One of the probably the most exciting things that we're now developing is the idea of the original, a placement test at the start. If
Okay, yeah.
a new family come on board, and then they want to know, well, where does their child start? It's very difficult to actually know.
Mhm.
So that's one of the most exciting things we're developing at the moment, is a pretty rigorous placement test, again, with a lot of the algorithms, the AI stuff working in the background, to then, once that test is done, then we've got our course creator, which we've had for about 12 or 18 months now. But that's going to help the course creator become even better and more personalized in exactly what your child needs. So I guess in that sense, it's going to accelerate um, creating a personalized course without mum or dad having to do a whole lot of back and forth diagnostic tests, checking here, checking there. So that's probably the biggest advancement for us. And
That's
then
great.
another big one, and I know we mentioned this, earlier before we started here, but one of the big things that AI is producing is the sheer quantity of good stuff and bad stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's often referred to as the internet pollution, and that's
Yes.
going to be a much. It's always been a bit of a problem because, I mean, a good example just in years gone by, you jump on YouTube and you're looking for something. It might take you ages to find something. You finally
Definitely,
found
yes.
something, and then,
It's
but
true.
the amount of time you've spent looking for that, you could have, you might have been able to find it, and then someone's produced something, and then the next thing they produce is rubbish. Something's great, and
Yeah,
then but the next, so that internet
right.
pollution is just going to go up exponentially,
Yeah.
just because the idea of being able to create content or articles or anything really and publish them, it's so quick to do that now.
Yeah.
So the idea of, we'll probably see ourselves again more of as a curator as well, so that our program or any material we create, you know parents don't have to worry about, well, is this any good or not. We'll probably the curated material will actually have more value now than or soon when the pollution hits
Mm.
it's just going to be enormous. So that's one aspect as well. And the other thing we're sort of developing is more of a chat bot. I don't know whether chatbot
Okay.
seems a little bit impersonal, but again, it's something that is designed that if someone, a student gets stuck on a particular question or something, then you can take these ways. You can take a photo of it, or upload an image of it. But rather than just be given the answer, be given, okay, well, what are we looking at? And a few leading questions for the child to respond. But again, at this stage, that's all text, which means that
Mm.
if you've got a younger child, they're not going to be they're going to struggle to read all that.
Sure.
It's like conversing, and that's where mum or dad
Right.
will need to to hop in. So it's not
Mm.
it's, I guess, a bit age sensitive what that age will be, which people will get a lot out of, as opposed to it's just not going to work. So for a really young child, I don't think that's going to work so well. But again, we're working on that, and we're relying on AI, or the engines of AI, to run it, using our as I said, ETI, the Experienced Teacher Intelligence. But
Mm.
still, we're sort of getting mixed results, and we're using the absolute latest, and we have been for a long time. So I'm not sure when that'll be ready. I mean, so we're certainly not we're working very quickly on it, and we've got a team working on it, but we've got some pretty smart operators on our team working on it too. So if we can't get it right just yet, it's going to be, because I know some other people have, other companies have released their AI versions, and I think,
Yeah.
and I do look at them and I think, well, they've called them AI, but from our point of view, they're not sort of delivering anything
Mm.
that's useful, I got to say. But
Mm.
so I think that's one of the difficulties too. That people jump on the bandwagon of AI, but what they're delivering is not much good. In fact, it can be quite detrimental. So
Yeah. And and that is one of the dangers too. Like, even just for, like, I've written um two children's books, which I'm nobody, so they're just up sitting on Amazon. They're just because it was just a passion of mine, and so I did it.
yes,
And I followed a few uh, influencers that were encouraging, especially with this AI technology. Hey, everyone can write a book now. You just AI will write it for you. It'll do the graphics for you. And so,
mm,
people are just popping books out there, which, hey, if it turns into a successful business and you're getting revenue, that's great. But then
mm.
again, we're contributing to that pollution,
Yeah, yeah,
internet
yeah. Well, when I
pollution.
talked about internet pollution, Kristen, I was not talking about your books. Let me make that
Oh,
clear.
no,
I was not talking about.
no, 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 no. Mine were not written by AI, so they
No,
were
that's
written,
right.
and the
That's all right.
graphics were done by me. So
Perfect, perfect. But you
that
get the
was that
idea.
was
You get the idea. You're actually competing against someone who's just thrown it up quickly because you can. You can
right.
actually you can
And
get
that's
something
and
done.
that's I think some of the backlash for this kind of technology that
Mm,
is thought going into it. And so, yeah, that we had this question about the pros and cons of this technology overall. And I mean, there's so many pros for this, but there's also the cons, and we have to weigh it and be responsible. And I think that's the key, with any of the technology that we've embraced over the last, what, 10, 20 years.
yeah.
The devices, right? We had
Mm,
cell phones, and then tablets, and smart TVs, and all of this
yeah.
stuff. We had to learn how to be responsible with all of these things. And I think, especially for something like AI, we have to now weigh those pros and cons and figure out what's the best way to be responsible with
Yeah,
it.
and I think it's really important. I know, that you see a lot of, younger teenagers, and that they always seem to be plugged in. They've got their
Yeah.
earphones on, no matter, and when they're crossing the road as well, like
Yeah, yeah,
it's so dangerous. But I mean that idea of having a time where you just stop, reflect, and think. I think that's over the last decade or so, that's becoming tougher and tougher for
yeah,
kids to do. I know that even my kids and their friends, sometimes when they're over here, you sort of see that they're all sitting around, but they're all on their, they're all, they're having a conversation, and they might even be texting each other. It is a bit crazy that they're sitting around a circle. But I guess, yeah, I mean, as a parent, you really want to foster that, that time out from technology
yeah,
and so on, for your kids. And I guess that's nothing new what I'm saying now, but I think it's more and more important. I heard someone say that, in a time where the world has never been so connected, then that actually we are so disconnected. So I think that's a problem, and AI isn't going to help that. Is not going to help that. It's actually going to be
it's true.
another layer that we've got to deal with. And one thing that I've thought of for many years now is that when you're bringing up your kids as they get older, because my kids' ages, our youngest is 15, our eldest is 35, so almost like a generation gap between our eldest and youngest in a way. But it is interesting in the fact that when you talk with your children and you're discussing something that you believe and your beliefs and so on, and sometimes when there is now when they want to challenge you or they want to argue with you or something like that, right now, I mean, there's just so many ways to back their argument, right? So it's a bit of a difficult one in the fact that, because they could
Mm.
type in anything. You say, my dad thinks this or mum thinks this. Give me an argument against that. And
Oh,
you get a
yes.
very good argument against you, right? So it's just a challenge. I don't know what the answer to that is, but except to
Oh my.
be aware of it. So, yeah.
That's a little scary notion.
Well, that is that is, and yeah. I thought that for years, because finding something on the internet to back up your argument, you can find
True.
something or
Yeah.
other. But now you've now got a technology which give you a very articulate
Mhm.
answer for you, no matter which answer you want. So that's a difficult one, I guess. So. I'm throwing some things out that I don't know. They might be a bit scary, and they probably are. But and I don't know the answers to, which I don't. I don't like throwing a problem out without thinking of an answer. But there are some that I just it'd be interesting
True.
to hear other people's views on that. And maybe not now, but in future, to give you something to think about at least. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Kristen, I'm gonna be monitored. My kids can't use ChatGPT yet, so but we'll see. We'll see. They'll probably have to use it eventually for research and whatnot. But it's definitely eye opening, and we do have to be mindful and keep our eye on this. And
Mm.
um, so do I think it's safe to say that AI is going to be more prevalent in educational resources coming up.
It is definitely so. Yeah, I guess, yeah. In terms of knowing how to use it, I think use it. Get heard. I'm part of an AI sort of group that is on the sort of cutting edge. A group that a fellow named Mike Koenig runs, and he often says that AI is a great slave, but not a great master. So I think
Yeah.
is you get that order right, use AI to your, as a benefit to you, but don't. I think one of the things that I do see a little bit is that, because it is very, you, I mean, I use it a lot as when I'm writing now. I do a lot of
Mhm.
writing as well as math stuff, but in terms of being a bit of a great draft, like a great first draft. So in some of the stuff that I've got to produce quickly, and might be some sort of communications with whoever, but I'll
Mhm.
sort of treat it as, I'll do the first 10%, which is the thoughts and so on. It
Sure.
does the middle 80%, and then I'll do the final 10% of tweaking. So it's a bit of like the 80-20 rule, but and I've got to say, I produce stuff a lot quicker
Faster. Yeah.
than, and
Yeah.
probably better than I do. So I've used it that way. I am aware, though, that you can probably become a little bit lazy if you're relying. You say, "Oh, look, got to do something here." Come up with. You can ask it. Come up with 5 different ideas on this subject or this topic, and it will come up 5, and you might have come up with that 5, and you might have had to go through and really think hard to come up with that 5. So you're actually
Yeah.
going to miss. You're going to miss that out. That thought process of the challenging yourself to come up with 5 and think about it, because AI can do that reasonably quickly. Well, like instantly. So again, that's a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I think you're going to get more and more. You're going to have to spend more and more time off a device for your kids, and do more and more work back on pen and paper
Yes.
to guard you against just that reliance.
Relying. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm. And I still find myself, like, even though I know things, like, we have access to a calculator, it'd
Yep.
be so much easier, but I still, just from, I guess, muscle memory, I'm looking for a piece of paper and a pencil, and I will work it out on the piece of paper. Meanwhile, my son's already grabbed the calculator. I'm like, no, 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 come do this
Yeah.
with me. Come walk this. We're gonna walk through this step by step. And I hope that that kind of translates, and that they see that, because yeah, sometimes it's good, but calculators die, and then what are you
Yeah.
gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
you're
think, yeah, I think having an aware, just being very aware of it.
yeah,
Um, I always think, I love this saying where you got some people who make things happen, and then you've got another group of people who watch things happen, and then you got a third group of people who just say, "What happened?" Right? So
right,
I think unless
yeah,
you're aware of it, I think people are going to be in the thing of, "Oh, what happened?" Right?
yeah,
So I think at least being aware of it, you're going to be in the first 2 groups, okay, at
right,
least.
right.
So I think that's really important. And yeah, it's going to be the ability for your kids to develop their problem solving skills, and all your logic and all that sort of stuff. Um, AI is a danger of replacing something that is irreplaceable, right? So
Yep.
I think, and that's why I'm saying that probably more and more effort needs to be that your kids are working off screen. I mean, I love that our program delivers the videos and teaching very succinctly and quickly, so you don't have to be on screens for too long, and
Yes.
then you've got an opportunity to do questions and so on off screen, which I love that. I always promote that, the pen and paper method, because there's nothing quite like the pen and paper, the way that you use that. I mean, there's plenty of studies now that just show that that's much more effective than anything. You're still using the pen and paper method, but I can see there'll be a shift away from that. I mean, there already is a shift away from that, but an even bigger shift away from that, and that will be lost on a lot of people. So if you're aware of that, and you take actions not to let that happen, I reckon that's super important.
For sure, for sure. This has been such a good conversation about AI, because I know I've wanted to talk about it for the longest time, because it's there. It's there. It's part of work now. It's part of educating my kids at home, and it's all out on social media too. You
Mm.
see it everywhere now. So I'm hoping that you all who are watching, maybe you had questions, and maybe we answered some for you, or we at least prompted some questions for you to take home and just really think about. And let us know in the comments if you had any specific questions, and we'd be happy to continue the conversation. And just before we wrap up, if for those of our viewers who haven't heard of CTC Math, can you just give a quick rundown on what you offer and how it can benefit homeschoolers?
Yeah, great. Yeah, yeah. Well, CTC Math, we really love our homeschooling. Guys, I wanted to start. I should have started. I said, look, I really love homeschoolers, because it's a real challenge. Teaching your kids. It's such a such a beautiful thing you're doing. It is absolutely fantastic. So we really love assisting families. Our programs, you know, from the youngest right through to the right through to K to 12, and essentially we've got it's pretty simple program. It's based on the video tutorials or the short video lessons, which make it as simple as math can be, right? Okay, and then
Which is
the
important.
kids, okay, so the kids do it. Watch the video, get into some questions immediately, or get immediate feedback. The reporting system's great, so it sort of takes care
Yeah.
of all your needs where you've got to do all your reporting. But importantly, the most importantly, kids actually enjoy using it because they get results. Okay, I
Yes.
often find, you know, people say, "How can you make math fun?" I say, "Well, sometimes not necessarily fun, but I always find that when kids succeed, there's a lot of joy in that." So
Yes.
I guess, you know, you can check, if you haven't seen it before, please check it out. ctcmath.com. We offer our homeschoolers a brilliant discount, 50% off. So
Yes.
we always do that. But you know, you only be able to check it out if you sign it and start using it. And the big thing, we always have guaranteed our programs. So 12 months, full money back guarantee. So if you're not happy, we're not happy. So okay.
We are CTC math fans, so I recommend it. It's a great program, and yeah, you were talking about the rewards of, you know, did they do this explosion thing at the
Oh, the
end?
confetti, yeah, that's a good.
Confetti, yeah, at the end
Yeah.
when they get the stars, and I like the aspect of mastering certain things, so you can go back, and so it's a challenge, and it's fun because, oh, I got 3 stars, oh, I got 4 stars, oh, I got 5 stars. So then they want to keep going back, which is, you're helping me out because math is not my thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's the one. When you said they go back as well, that's probably would need to mention that no matter what year your child's in, they can go back
Exactly.
a few years if they need to, or 40 years. So you got the whole programs available just for the one price. So
Yeah, that's great. It's a great platform and great content, and great people behind the scenes, like Pat. And so we just thank you for being here again with us today. And thank you all for listening or watching, wherever you're watching. Please leave us a comment if you have any questions. And we'll see you again for another Homeschool Live. Bye for now.
bye bye.